I think my audio didn't come through. I'm just going to say that one more time. Good day, everyone. My name is Anissa Barton-Thompson, and I'm the social media specialist for the College of Continuing and Professional Education here at California State University, Dominguez Hills. I'll be your host for this presentation, so welcome. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our social media and website resources shortly after today's session. Please feel free to download our Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership Studies information kit for details about the program and additional resources covered in this webinar. The address is bit.ly/CSUDH-BSOLS-info kit. Now we know that's a long URL, so we've provided a link in the chat for those who are joining us and participating live. It'll also be available via a follow-up email to all of our attendees, as well as on our website. So before we jump in, I'd like to review the Zoom controls. This session is being presented in a webinar format, so you won't need to worry about connecting your microphone or your camera. However, we want your participation. So please help us address your questions by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you're joining us on the Zoom desktop app or in the web browser. Or you can look in the top right of your screen if you're on a mobile device. Once you click the Q&A button, a dialog box will open, allowing you to type in your question. Please ask your questions in that Q&A panel rather than in the chat box. So what you're going to see in the chat is we will be providing links and other helpful information. Our marketing staff members, Stephanie Miller and Keith Otterberg, are standing by to assist you. While we're there, we're answering those questions. We're moving those questions to the end of the session. And although you may have lots of questions, you'll find that a lot of those get answered during that Q&A session towards the end of the presentation. So with that being said, let's take a quick look at our session's agenda. We'll begin by meeting Dr. Betty Vu, the program director of the Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership Studies here at California State University. This abbreviation is also known as OLS. She'll introduce you to the program, admission requirements, courses within the major, and how to apply. Then we'll address your questions in the Q&A. We'll also have a survey at the end of this webinar, and we'd love to get your feedback so we can make sure future events are even better. And if you're on social media, please use the hashtag CSUDH to notify and share. So let's begin. Betty, take it away.
Thank you, Anissa. Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank you for coming today, and I hope that you'll find the rest of this presentation informative. I am the Assistant Dean here at the College of Business Administration and Public Policy, as well as the what you would kind of know as the Program Director for the Organizational Leadership Studies major. This particular major is designed for working adults. And so we are under a different kind of structure in terms of personnel. So in terms of what the Organizational Leadership Studies major is intended for, is for those who want to complete their degree. This is a degree completion program. And so what that means is that normally a lot of our students come with a number of units that are in excess of 60 undergraduate semester units. And so it's designed to help those who are interested in going into an online only bachelor's degree within the CSU system. So in terms of the actual program, it is an interdisciplinary degree. Interdisciplinary degree meaning that the program collects courses across a number of departments within the university. We curate these courses to fit what we think is best suited for students who are seeking a leadership style, management style course curriculum, but through the interdisciplinary lens of, from departments like communications, political science, public administration, a little bit from business. And so these collection of courses have been designated for this particular degree to meet, to ideally meet with what you're looking for. The program is accredited by WASC. That is our regional accreditation that the university has. And in terms of the practical applications I was mentioning earlier, because we have this interdisciplinary viewpoint, all of our instructors who teach within these courses and these sections for the organizational leadership studies major knows that you're not coming from a public administration background or a management background, because a lot of professors who assume that you're taking upper division courses are designed for their specific major. And so for our particular courses and sections, these are dedicated, and the instructors are all well aware of that. And then, of course, from a teaching perspective, this is 100% online and asynchronous. Asynchronous means that there are no designated times or meeting days, but it is designed to be a much more fluid, much more on your own time type of learning. And so oftentimes the courses will be structured week to week with expected activities that you'll be doing week to week. Some instructors will do live lecture, but they all know that it's not a requirement for all students to participate at a certain time and date. So they will record if they do live lecture, so that you can catch up on the lecture if you just couldn't make it up whenever the instructor decided to do so. So let's talk about the admissions criteria for the program. So for the minimum GPA of transferable units, all students have to transfer in about at least a 2.0 GPA, 2.0 meaning a C or higher. That doesn't mean that all grades have to be a C, but it means that the average of all of your grades have to be an equivalent to a C average. You have to have left in good standing at your last college or university attended. Good standing normally means that you didn't leave the institution in either an academic probation or some type of financial hold, like you were able to leave the institution without any issues, except for if those of you who had originally came or attended CSUDH. If you did attend CSUDH and left in not good academic standing, went somewhere else, and then left there at last in good standing, we will revert back to your last attendance here at Dominguez Hills. So let's talk offline if that's something that's applicable to you. In terms of number of minimum units, although it doesn't happen very often, we do have some transfer applicants who don't meet the 60 minimum semester units, but for the most part, majority of our students will meet that minimum 60 units and or more. And if you do meet more, we will accept a maximum of 70. And we will take in whatever units we can, and we will let you know what it will be applied towards, whether or not that's upper division major course requirements or unit requirements. So that'll be happening if you receive an admission decision from your application. In addition to all of these units, no matter how many units you've completed, we also need you to have all of your lower division GE courses completed. So that's a university admission requirement, so there's nothing I can really do about that. But the courses are in math, English, critical thinking, and communications. So if you're actively in community college right now, your community college counselor can talk to you about that. And if it's been a long time since you've last attended, we can kind of take a look and see what's going on there, and to see if you have or don't have these courses. The best rule of thumb is to always have a copy of all of your transcripts, so that way you know best what courses you have taken and what courses can be used towards the transfer degree. So with that, let's talk about the major in terms of course requirements. So for our particular organizational leadership studies major, we do have 9 upper division courses that you do have to take. So let's pretend that you only had the minimum 60, 9 units or 3 courses, because all courses in our program are 3 units. So 9 units or 3 courses will be required for upper division GEs. And we do schedule that within our curriculum schedule. So those 3 courses you see on the slide is the upper division GEs. And then of course we want to talk about the major core courses. So because I had mentioned earlier, we are an interdisciplinary major, we only have really 2 specific courses designed for OLS, and that's OLS 300 and then OLS 490. So OLS 300 is just a introductory course into the major, just to kind of orient you to what we're intending for you to learn. And then the 490 is the capstone, and that should be taken in your last semester of attendance. So don't try to like jump the gun and enroll in that super early. So let's talk about the rest of the Common Core courses that's required in the major. So here you will see that we have a number of what we call Common Core courses. And so for all students who need to take courses to fulfill their degree requirements, depending on your specific situation, you may need to take all 7 or not. So let's pretend again that you came in with a minimum of 60 units, then you would need to take all 7 of these listed Common Core courses to fulfill the unit requirements. And so you'll see here a list that kind of, as I mentioned earlier, reflective our interdisciplinary perspective in terms of organizational leadership studies. I think I'm going to butcher this word today. It's not coming for me so well. So next, let's talk about the tracks in terms of that's in the major. So we have tracks within the major. And so I always call them themes because I think that's easier for students to understand. Tracks are not concentrations. You may be used to concentrations, especially if you're a prior CSU student. So these tracks, what we call, or themes, it's designed to really give you a sense of where to focus on if you were interested in a particular track. So we have 2 tracks, and on this particular slide, we're going to talk about the strategic communication track. And so on this slide here, you'll see the list of all the track core courses. And all of those courses can meet your requirements. But if you're looking specifically to kind of have a theme to your track, then we have a strategic communication track. And so if you do want to have a strategic communication track, then what courses you should focus on within this list is any upper division communications course, the Business 300 business communications course, the Psych 372 course, and I think you'll see the pop-ups of the boxes around. So Soch 315 course and the Theater 320 speech skills and techniques course. So these courses would then be what we would call the strategic communication track courses. And so that, if you want to, but if, let's say, you're not really super interested in strategic communications and you're interested more in the public sector track, the public sector is more management oriented. And so those particular courses that will help you in the, oops, I think we're on the wrong slide here. For the public sector track, So in terms of the public sector track, we have courses that any upper division econ course, any upper division law course, any of the labor courses, the labor LBR 411, labor law. That's really important to learn, especially in the public sector. If you are really in the public sector, negotiations with unionized workforces is very important. And of course, then that means the HR courses are really relevant. The management theory courses, organizational behavior courses are really relevant. So if you're interested in a more management kind of oriented courses, then these are the courses I would suggest following for the public sector track. Also, principles of marketing is there too. So, but you'll see between the two slides that the courses are the same for both tracks. So if you were agnostic to either the strategic communication track or the public sector track, then you can choose any courses. It will all still meet. So it's really designed to be flexible to meet whatever you're kind of looking for. And so we hope that this will give you broader flexibility and more options in terms of what you would like to do. So let's talk about graduation and how to finish the degree. So in terms of the major, you will need 120 semester units to graduate. So ideally, you only have 120 units. Sometimes some students will transfer even more than 70. So, unfortunately, we can't take every single units, but we will accept the minimum of 60. Actually, to be for admissions purposes, you have to have the minimum of 60. And then, of course, the general education courses that we have mentioned earlier, the major requirements. So just a reminder, we have Common Core, and then we have Track Core, but all of it will be part of your core courses. And then also we have a graduation writing assessment, which is part of the CSU policy. And so all students have to take what we call English 350 or an equivalent in this particular major to graduate from CSUDH with the Organizational Leadership Studies major. And just to note, only the major is going to be on your diploma. Tracks are not part of your degree requirements. It's only for us to kind of give you a sense of what you should be taking. So there is no designation on your diploma other than Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership Studies. So let's talk a little bit about the program costs. And so we will talk about how, so because of the our relationship with the College of Continuing and Professional Education, this program is considered an extension course program. And so we don't run the same tuition as the general university population. So you may be familiar with the CSU state tuition fees. And in this particular program, we actually charge by the unit. So we don't really charge you. The difference really I think from a layman's perspective is that university charges you by the number of semesters you take. We charge you by the number of units. So if you decide that you needed to slow down and take a couple of courses, you can. It costs the same. And if you wanted to speed up, then the cost will be a little bit more. But the courses are all about $1,500 per course. And it's still, even though the number may be a little intimidating, it's still relatively close to state tuition fees because we don't charge student fees. There's no extra student fees except for like random one-time occurrences, but there's no reoccurring semester to semester fees. And so overall, depending on how many units you need, it can cost anywhere between $25,000 and $30,000. And of course, this is only about tuition. We're not talking about books and stuff. So I always caution students, like, you need to kind of think, in addition to the tuition, a little bit extra for textbooks, a computer. I definitely recommend getting a regular computer, not a mobile tablet or phone tablet, whatever it is out there today. I'm dating myself a little bit, but stick with the traditional laptop where you can install Microsoft Office and use, Office and Excel and Word and whatnot. So those are the kinds of things I do recommend. So let's talk about financial assistance, since we're talking about money. So in terms of financial aid, the amount of the financial aid available to you will be federal Pell Grants, Stafford loans. These are all things that are typically available to all students, with the exception of state university grants. So if you were a prior CSU student, you may have been familiar with what we call SUGs. And so those are not eligible. This program is not eligible for state university grants because we don't collect state tuition fees from you. And so the program isn't eligible. There's also privately funded loans available for you. And also, if you can find scholarships, you're more than welcome to utilize those scholarships towards the degree. Some of you may have employer benefits. And so oftentimes the employer benefits run about $5,000 a year in terms of employee benefits. And so if you want to kind of keep within that budget, it's also possible with this program. So sorry for the pause there. So let's talk a little bit about the application deadlines. And so for the application deadlines, we accept year-round, which is very atypical of the CSU. The CSU generally only admits transfer students in the fall, and for a very short window of time. And so our application periods are longer, but yet kind of off kilter from the traditional sense. So for example, here for fall let's pretend that you're going to apply for fall of 23. And if you do, then applications have been open since October and will run until July 1st of this year. And then with a document deadline of July 1, documents, it refers to your transcripts, because without the transcripts in hand received by the university, your application will be considered incomplete and voided if you don't meet those deadlines. So for spring, for example, here, if you're looking for spring of 24, then applications will open in August and will close in November 1. So it's a specific time frame that you can apply for spring, and then summer is a really short, tight window. So you really have to be really strategic if you're trying to enroll in summer, because it's only open for a couple of months. And if you don't make the deadlines, you will have to apply for the next semester. Now, some students ask, if I don't make one, can I roll over my application? And unfortunately, you cannot. The CSU does not allow applicants to move from one term to another. So if you commit to applying for one particular semester and the documents didn't make it in, you'll have to restart again with the next semester with a new application. The system will save your personal information, but the fee will have to be repaid again. So I always suggest to applicants, make sure whatever you're applying to, you're ready to apply and go forth with that particular semester, as we can't really do any modifications. Okay. So let's talk about how to apply to the program. So the CSU system has what we call Cal State Apply. And so that's the portal for the entire 23 system. campus and all of its programs within the campuses. And so I lovingly say we have no control on the specific things that you'll see in the pages that you will come on in terms of the application. But I do suggest that fill out as much as you can and just do the minimum fields. For example, in the application process, somewhere it'll say, list all the institutions attended. You should list all the institutions attended, no matter if you only took one class or like 20. But then it'll also ask you, list all the courses you've taken. Now, the list of courses you have taken, you don't really need to do, because we're going to see it on your transcripts. It's designed for some particular programs that really wanted to know that information from students. We don't. And so you definitely don't need to fill out every single courses you have taken that you across all the institutions you've attended. So I would say, try to skip over the fields that are not required. And you should be able to tell when you're going through the pages that what is needed and what is not needed to go on to the next page. Okay. Let's talk about a little bit about the computer access and learning platforms really quickly. Because this is an online only program, the expectation is that you have a computer and you have internet access. You don't have to own the actual computer, but it is ideal that you have access to it readily. And then also have ideally stable internet access, especially for those classes that may sometimes use Zoom meetings and whatnot. So it's really important that at least if you have good internet access, you won't have any problems with your courses. And of course, we will give you the usual host of things that all students get from us, student email accounts, access to Zoom. The CSU also gives out free access to Microsoft Office Suite software, Adobe. So for the most part, those kinds of things you should have access to without having to worry about purchasing additional software. And then also I just want to touch briefly on the fact that we have what we call a learning management system. So there is a portal that you will see all your classes in. And for those of you who are used to, or you're coming from the community colleges, you'll be familiar with Canvas. And so you'll be able to access your courses through Canvas. So that'll be something readily available to you too. And that is it for the online access portion of this presentation. And so we're going to talk about a little bit about testimonials from some of our prior students here. So for this particular student, she really enjoyed being able to work and go to school at the same time. And so that's really the ideal situation that we're hoping to meet with all of our students here in the Organizational Leadership Studies major. We want you to be able to continue working in your place of employment and also be able to keep up with classes. And so for some students, that means taking 1 or 2 courses a semester. For others, that means they're going to take 3 or 4. Whatever the pace you want, I always recommend balancing between your work, your home, and school, because in the end, you want to be able to perform well in school as well. So I always tell students, you never know, you might want to go on to graduate degrees, because I also have graduate degrees that you can join. And so if you are looking to join a graduate degree, for example, after this, most oftentimes graduate programs require a 3.0 GPA or higher. And so that's an ideal situation if you're working and going to school at the same time, that, you keep the pace that will ensure success. And so I also want to talk about a little bit about the curriculum. Here we had another student talk about our curriculum. And again, as I pointed out earlier, we have an interdisciplinary viewpoint of leadership. And And so we have pulled a lot of academic disciplines across the university, and all of our partners within, I call them partners, they're faculty members. They all are aware that this is what the purpose of the program is. They understand where the students are coming from, and they'll even tailor some of the way they present the materials for that purpose. And so we really try to have a real world applicability to the courses for you. Sorry about that. And so I wanted to end the testimonials with this last one here, where she was able to apply directly to her immediate work environment. And so that's the best type of feedback we can always get from students, where they're able to learn what they're learning in class immediately to their work. And it's usually one of those aha moments, you kind of always knew, but until somebody really verbalized it to you, you realize that this is the way it's supposed to be. And then, with that new perspective, you can apply that to work. I've had students say, their bosses see a difference in them, a different level of maturity or different level of perspective. So I think that's a really great way of continuing to learn, continuing to be able to apply what you're being able to use from the courses to your work environment. So, with that in mind, we will, I think, go on. I will hand it off to Anissa.
That'll work. Thank you, Dr. Vu. This is awesome. This is a wealth of information, and we know everybody's got questions. So we're starting to see those questions coming into the Q&A panel. We want to just remind you, go ahead and keep bringing your questions up as we're answering these. You may think of additional questions. Please go ahead and drop those in the chat. We're also providing contact information here, just in case you want to formulate your questions a little bit more, think about, or do a little bit more research. And then you can come back and visit us on our website, call us on our phone number 310-243-3646, or email orgleadership@csudh.edu, just in case you want to come and follow up with that momentarily. So let's get started. Dr. Vu, if you can go ahead and bring your camera up, and we will start with our first question. Oscar is asking, is college math enough to get into the program, or do I need a higher math college course? The college math course was completed at Long Beach Community College.
From a very generic viewpoint, it just depends on the math. So, normally if it's 100 level, it may be too bit basic, but if it's usually in the 200s, it may meet. But it really depends too on the year of when this was taken. So that would be something more very specific that we would have to kind of talk about offline. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have another question from an anonymous attendee here that says, I think I'm on academic probation at a different CSU, but if I'm on academic probation, how do I clear that?
There's really no real way to clear it without going back and really getting and taking more units to raise the GPA, depending on what we're talking about here. If you're one course away from being back onto good academic standing, it might be worth your while to take that one course. But if it's definitely a long time ago, or it's not really going to be feasible, you may want to try to attend a community college in between, take a few courses, then you'll be in good academic standing. And then we can kind of take a look at what that meant. My earlier comment about the CSUDH students who are returning, who are on academic probation, will face kind of greater issues. But if you're coming from another CSU, but you have no other attendance in between, then then we would kind of take a look at that and see what's going on. But my general recommendation is take a course or two at a community college. At least it breaks up the attendance, and then we can kind of take a look to see how bad is it in terms of your grades and what would happen there.
Okay. For this next part, I just want to make sure that we get all the questions going. I'm going to go ahead and stop our share for a second. And the next question comes from Maritza. She says, can the transcripts be taken to CSUDH in person, or do they have to be sent by the college attending or the college that you attended?
If you want to come onto campus and submit your transcripts, as long as the transcripts are still sealed and in their original envelope it came in, the university will accept it. If it's been opened or you have a floating copy, it's no longer considered official. And so that would be something that you would need to go get again. So it just depends on what we're talking about here. But in general, you can, as long as it's sealed still. Okay.
Nancy asks about the textbooks. Will the textbooks come in a PDF format or an e-textbook format?
So the faculty do have leeway in terms of how they want the textbooks given. Some will be PDFs, some will have their own personal collation of things. Others will be traditional textbooks from publishers. We do post on our website all the courses as well as the textbooks that are attached to the courses beforehand. So even if you didn't register or haven't registered for the classes yet, you'll see the textbook information before registering to allow you time to secure that textbook. But it can come in a variety of ways. We don't really have a mandate for a specific type of textbook.
Okay. The next question comes from Luis, who asks, I got my associate degree from El Camino College. However, I had credits from another 2 colleges. Do I need to get transcripts from all the other colleges or just the one from El Camino?
So as I mentioned earlier in the application process where it says list all institutions attended, when you do, that also triggers the university to say, okay, well, then we want to see transcripts from all of these institutions. Now, if it's all this California community colleges, they sometimes have simplified single transcripts from all of the community colleges. So it could be one transcript. But if you attended like a couple of out of state and a couple here and, private schools and CSU. So if you did a myriad of things, then yes, you would need to contact each institution and request the transcript from those institutions to be sent to us, either electronically or by regular mail.
Okay. We have an anonymous attendee who asks, is the degree, and they said it a certain way, but I'm going to say less expensive than other types of degrees, because no degree is cheap.
I did not do the US has a wide variety of number of institutions. But I would say that the cost of the program can't be considered cheaper than other institutions. It just kind of depends. But overall, I think the important part is to really look at whether or not, this is the investment you kind of want to make for yourself, right, and then see if that is really in line with what you're trying to do. And if that fits, then we're your fit. And if that doesn't fit, then we're not your fit,
Okay. And speaking of the fit, so another attendee is asking, are there any associate degrees for transfer programs that transfer right into the program? Is there like an inroad?
We don't do direct pathways. I know that other majors in the university have direct pathways, like you kind of take beforehand. Like I think business majors have a direct pathway. And so we don't normally prescribe to that because we want to allow the flexibility. So as long as you have fulfilled the associate's level degree requirements, that generally means that you should be fine. I can't guarantee it because I don't see the transcripts yet, but for the most part, there shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Heidi asks, is there a time frame in place as to how long someone can take to finish the program?
No, I think that anecdotally, someone took like 20 years. Like someone transferred in, it went away, back in the early 2000s or 90s even, and then decided to come back and wanted to do their degree. And, some of those things that I talked about earlier, like the lower division GEs, that's a little bit wonkier because it's so much older. And so there's a lot more investigation that we have to do to kind of figure out what is the equivalent to today. But as long as the units are there and the courses are there, there is no time limit to complete a degree, no time limit to the transfer of courses. So yeah, you can at any time finish the degree.
That's awesome. Okay. Paul asks, he has actually got two questions. His first question is, some private colleges give some credits or units for years worked. So we're talking about credit for prior learning in the nonprofit sector. Will that be offered through this kind of program?
I know that the CSU has a policy for accepting academic credit for work experience. We have not developed that particular process here within the university. If we do or when we do, then we can kind of entertain the idea of that. But at the moment, no, unfortunately, we're not able to do that.
His second question is, aside from a general counselor, is there an OLS staffer or counselor to help us create an academic plan for each particular student?
Yeah, so yes, and normally we do have a specific advisor for this particular major. And unfortunately, she has recently left for another CSU campus. And so I would normally introduce the advisor within this presentation, but we're just in the middle of a break. But normally, yes, there is a dedicated advisor. And the sections that I mentioned earlier in terms of courses, they are dedicated only for organizational leadership studies students. So we actually close these courses to the general student population. So it's not like what you're used to, maybe if you're, running to the phone or the computer for your appointment date and, you got to plug it in and hope that you don't get on the wait list. None of that really happens here at the organizational leadership studies major. That's part of the reason why we are also a little bit different in terms of tuition costs, is that we will run the courses. We can run courses low. So if you've had experiences where, you had 5 students in the class and the department canceled the course on you, and so you had to scramble for something else, that won't happen here. We make sure that you have access to the courses you need. They may not always be offered every semester because we can't really do that, but we can guarantee that you'll have access to your courses first. And we don't open up the sections to general student populations until the very end of registration cycles. So you will always have the priority to get into the courses.
That's excellent. I'm going to keep some of our next questions a little brief because we know we want to make sure that we fit within a time frame. So the next question is, what's the ratio of students to teachers or students faculty?
Yeah, normally our average section sizes are about 20 to 25. So that is historically very low in comparison to many other CSU campuses. I mean, it could range from 40 to 80.
Okay.
So from that perspective, it's a pretty cozy, I think, number of students per section. And so hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. And along those lines, approximately how many students graduate each term?
Well, that's kind of a broad question. So I'm going to reframe that as it just really depends on when people plan to graduate. So normally in any given year, we intake about 60 or 70 students. And so the graduation is about that, the inflow and outflow is kind of the same. So we don't really count by semester because everyone kind of has a different kind of scenario when they're going through the program. But we do have, a couple, anywhere from 30 to 40 students any given year to graduate.
Okay. I have a couple of admissions questions. Keith asks, is there a process to change my major in the CSU system? Is it necessary? His last attendance was at East Bay.
If you're coming into to this university at CSUDH applying as an organizational leadership major, then that's what you are. You don't really change, even though we're all one system, we're not on the same stuff.
Right.
And so just because you went to like CSU East Bay, let's pretend you're a psych, I don't remember if he said major or not, but let's pretend you were a psych major. You don't come over here as a psych major. You come over here as whatever major you applied for. Now we'll see that you were a psych major on your transcripts and we'll see the courses, but it won't have any relevancy for us, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Amber asks, she sent all of her transcripts to CSUDH for regular admissions. Can those also be used to be accepted into this program?
Yeah, I mean, the university doesn't really discriminate in terms of which major you're trying to be in. So if you did apply, let's pretend you applied last semester for last semester or last year for regular admissions and it didn't work out or whatnot, we will still use it. Now the university does have the right to re-request transcripts if they think you've there's too much time has passed, because we don't know if you went ahead and went back to school. Right. And so they may want to see an updated transcript from you because they want to just make sure you didn't do anything in between the last time you've submitted the transcripts or not. But they usually will let you know that they want to see an updated transcript.
Sounds good. Okay, let's shift over to the financial side. An anonymous attendee is asking, is a Cal grant accepted as a form of financial aid?
If you're eligible for it and you're given it, then yes. Okay. We don't really have a difference. Okay. But I can certainly that's a very specific financial aid question. I will honestly say I'm not a financial aid person.
Okay. So we may have to
kind of ask that for the financial aid office.
Sounds good. Another anonymous person asks, Stafford loans for a different CSU. They held those and they did not finish at that particular campus. Would they be able to apply for financial aid here? And that might be another scenario where they may contact financial aid.
Yeah, I would say it just depends on you. Like from a personal standpoint, when I had Stafford loans as an undergrad, there's a limit, like anything else. And so as long as you didn't reach that limit, you can continue, using or applying for and getting Stafford loans. But if you've exceeded that limit, the availability ends. But yeah, the financial aid folks would kind of know better because it would depend on your individual circumstances. Yeah.
Okay. Karina asks, does the Board of Governors fee waiver apply for this degree program?
No.
Okay. Unfortunately.
Yeah,
okay.
Unfortunately.
So let's shift back to admissions. If you're accepted for the fall term at CSUDH, can you enroll in the program with a permit from the university for this coming fall semester? I'm not sure if they mean for fall 2024 or something like that.
If you're saying you've already been admitted and you're deciding you don't want to be in that major anymore, so I have a instance right now. I have an incoming psychology student who reached out to us and said they'd like to switch, that they don't want to be a psychology major at CSUDH. And so we are in the talks with her about changing her a major officially to organizational leadership. It's an internal process. It's a form you fill out, and the university will process it. But it also helps us know that that's not what she is really, because in the system it'll still say psychology. But since she let us know that's what she wants to do, and we had to sign the form, we know that that's what she wants, and so we're putting her on our student communications so that she would get the notifications from us directly at the program level to make sure that she stays in contact with us and make sure she registers for courses with us. So yes, you can change your major if you've already been accepted to CSUDH. I think that's what you're asking.
And along those lines, once you've been accepted, you're a fully academic student. So can OLS students attend school activities, use the library, get tutoring, and so on? What's available in terms of student resources?
Sure. So there is a small distinction because you're not technically paying student fees. So I mentioned earlier, the tuition is by the unit, and we have no recurring fees. So things that are off limits will be like the student health center. They won't service you because you're not paying a student health fee. But things like the library, no, not a problem. If you want to go to the athletics games, no one's going to stop you. I'm sure they'll love that have you there. I think they're always asking for people to come and support them.
Very true.
So if you're interested in the basketball or softball team, I know we went to some Division II finals. I'm not super familiar with all of the terminologies, but I know that they've been doing really well. So yeah, you're more than welcome to use those kinds of resources. And even career services is part of the services that you can use. We do have a specific agreement with the Office of Career Services. So if you're interested in getting some career advice or resume review, they have your name and they know who you are. So they will also help you out.
Sounds good. We've got 2 more questions. Elizabeth asks, so can you take 1 or 2 courses every semester? What's the recommended course load?
That's a very individual question in terms of what's the course load, because I don't know how well you will do. You don't know maybe how well you will do. But I always tell students, start off with 1 or 2 if you're unsure, and if you feel confident or comfortable, you can increase the number, and if you feel that that's all you need, then that's fine. The university only requires you to be enrolled once an academic year. So either in fall or spring, as long as you're enrolled, you're considered an active student. If you don't enroll in 2 semesters in a row, then they will what they call drop you. And so they will deactivate you as a student and consider you no longer a student. So as long as you maintain continuous academic year enrollment, then you will always be considered a student, even if you take only 1 course. So yeah, if you're trying to just take 1 course, it's going to take a while if you take 1 course a year, but you can take 1 course a semester if that's what you want to do.
Absolutely. Okay, and Benjamin gets our final question of the session. He says, once completed, is there a master's program associated with this degree?
Not specifically to this degree, but the College of Business here, I also run the Master's in Public Administration degree. So you're more than welcome to talk to me about the Master's in Public Administration degree. If you want to kind of continue in that vein. There are other graduate programs here at the university. And if you're interested in that, we could kind of talk about that offline. But yes, there is definitely degrees, but there is no master's in leadership. I know that the department is talking about it, but I'm not really sure when that's going to happen.
All right. So with all of those wonderful questions, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Betty Vu for contributing and giving all of this wonderful insight. We hope that everybody has had the opportunity to ask your questions, but we'll put our contact information back up again. Dr. Vu, thank you again for your time. And I'm going to just bring up your next steps. So with this, we want to make sure that if you're ready to apply for the Bachelor of Science in Organizational Leadership Studies, please go ahead and use the Cal State Apply at www.calstate.edu/apply and start getting your application process rolling. And if you have additional questions about the program, or if you'd like to request a preliminary review of your transcripts prior to applying to the program, please contact the program department directly at 310-243-3646 or email orgleadership@csudh.edu. So with that, this concludes our session. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. Again, feel free to connect with us on our website, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. The recording for this session will be online shortly on our website, and it is already live on our YouTube channel. We'd love to get your feedback on today's session, so please let us know how we can improve the quality of the information provided by visiting bit.ly/CSUDH-webinar-feedback. We'll stay in this session for just a few minutes more to give everyone a moment to jot down their last-minute notes and download the information kit from the chat panel. When you're ready to leave, simply click the red Leave button in the corner of your screen. Once again, we thank you for joining us. Please stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you in class. Have a good one, everyone.